Have you ever wondered what would happen if you gave up sugar in your 70s? Most people assume it's too late to make meaningful changes to their diet at this stage of life. They think the damage is already done, that their bodies are set in their ways, and that giving up something as pleasurable as sugar simply isn't worth the sacrifice. But what if I told you that removing sugar from your diet could transform your health in ways you never imagined possible, even at 75? Just 1 month ago, I made a decision that many would consider extreme. After decades of enjoying desserts, sweetened coffee, and all manner of treats without much thought, I completely eliminated added sugar from my diet. No more cookies after dinner, no more sweetener in my morning coffee, no more hidden sugars in sauces and dressings. I didn't do this on a whim. My doctor had been warning me about my rising blood sugar levels, and the early signs of type 2 diabetes were becoming impossible to ignore. What happened next shocked even me. The changes I experienced weren't subtle or gradual, they were profound and rapid, affecting everything from my energy levels to my sleep quality, my mental clarity to my chronic pain. In this video, I'm going to share the remarkable transformations I experienced after just 30 days without added sugar. Some of these changes started within the first few days, while others developed more gradually over the month. Stay with me until the end, because the final change I'll share was the most unexpected of all, something I never would have connected to sugar consumption, yet it had been affecting my quality of life for years. Understanding these effects might just give you the motivation to try your own sugar-free experiment, no matter your age. Now, let's explore what really happens when you give up sugar at 75. Change 1. My joint pain decreased by 80% within 2 weeks. The first and most dramatic change I noticed after giving up sugar was a substantial reduction in my joint pain. For nearly a decade, I had been struggling with painful inflammation in my knees, hands, and lower back. I had accepted this discomfort as an inevitable part of aging, something to be managed with pain relievers and occasional cortisone shots, but never truly resolved. By the end of my second week without sugar, something remarkable happened. The persistent ache in my joints had diminished by at least 80%. I could get up from a chair without wincing, walk upstairs without gripping the railing for dear life, and even open tight jar lids with significantly less pain in my hands. This wasn't a slight improvement, it was transformative. What surprised me most was how quickly this change occurred. I had been living with progressively worsening joint pain for years, yet after just 14 days without sugar, I was experiencing relief that no amount of over-the-counter pain medication had provided. The science behind this makes perfect sense. Sugar is highly inflammatory, causing your body to produce cytokines and other inflammatory compounds that directly impact your joints. At 75, my body was already producing more inflammatory substances than it did in my younger years, and the sugar in my diet was essentially throwing gasoline on that inflammatory fire. Take Margaret, for example. At 77, she had been dealing with rheumatoid arthritis for over 15 years, with pain so severe she had given up gardening, her lifelong passion. My doctor never mentioned that sugar could be making it worse, she told me when we discussed my experience. Inspired by my results, she eliminated sugar for 3 weeks. It wasn't a miracle cure, she admitted, but the reduction in pain was significant enough that I've been able to get back into my garden for short periods. That alone has improved my quality of life tremendously. If you're currently managing chronic pain with medications that have their own side effects, consider what a reduction in sugar might do for your inflammation levels. For me, the relief has been so significant that I've been able to reduce my dependence on pain relievers, which brings its own set of health benefits. Change 2. My energy levels stabilized after the initial slump. The second major change I experienced after giving up sugar involved my energy levels, though this transformation wasn't immediately positive. For the first 3 to 5 days without sugar, I felt absolutely terrible, fatigued, irritable, and even slightly dizzy at times. I craved sweets constantly and wondered if I had made a terrible mistake. This initial withdrawal period was challenging enough that I nearly abandoned the entire experiment. But then, something remarkable happened around day 6. The fog lifted, and I began experiencing energy levels I hadn't felt in years. Not the rapid ups and downs I was accustomed to, but a steady, consistent energy that lasted throughout the day. No more mid-afternoon crashes that left me nodding off in my armchair, no more desperate reaches for cookies or candy to get through the slumps. Looking back, I now understand what was happening. For decades, my body had been on a blood sugar roller coaster, quick spikes after consuming sweets, followed by dramatic crashes that triggered fatigue and cravings for more sugar. This cycle wasn't just uncomfortable, it was placing enormous stress on my pancreas and insulin response. At 75, my body's ability to manage these fluctuations had diminished significantly, making the crashes more severe and recovery more difficult. What I've found most valuable about this steady energy is how it's improved my ability to stay active. Before giving up sugar, I would often cancel my afternoon walk because I simply didn't have the energy after lunch. Now, I can count on having sufficient energy for physical activity regardless of the time of day. This increased activity creates a virtuous cycle. More movement leads to better circulation, improved sleep, enhanced mood, and ultimately, even more energy. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Now, let's move forward. Change 3. My sleep quality improved dramatically after 10 days. Prior to giving up sugar, I had resigned myself to poor sleep as simply another burden of aging. I would fall asleep easily enough but wake up multiple times throughout the night, often lying awake for an hour or more before drifting off again. I tried everything from melatonin to prescription sleep aids, blackout curtains to white noise machines, but nothing seemed to provide consistent relief. About 10 days into my sugar-free experiment, I noticed a significant change in my sleep patterns. I was falling asleep quickly as usual, but now I was staying asleep through most of the night. When I did wake up, I was able to fall back asleep within minutes rather than tossing and turning for hours. Even more remarkably, I was waking up feeling genuinely refreshed instead of groggy and stiff. The improvement wasn't just in the duration of sleep but in the quality. My smartwatch, which tracks sleep stages, showed a notable increase in deep sleep, the restorative phase that becomes increasingly elusive as we age. Before eliminating sugar, I averaged about 45 minutes of deep sleep per night. After 10 days without sugar, that increased to nearly 90 minutes. The science behind this connection is fascinating. Sugar consumption, especially in the evening, significantly disrupts your sleep architecture by causing blood sugar fluctuations throughout the night. When your blood sugar drops too low during sleep, your body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline to raise it back up, essentially waking up your brain in the middle of the night. For seniors with already fragile sleep patterns, this additional disruption can be particularly problematic. Consider Helen, an 82-year-old who struggled with insomnia for over a decade. I was at the point where I dreaded going to bed, she explained. I knew I'd just lie there worrying about not sleeping, which of course made it even harder to sleep. After hearing about my experience, Helen decided to eliminate sugar, particularly after 2 p.m. The change wasn't immediate, she noted, but after about 2 weeks, I started sleeping for longer stretches. Now, 3 months in, I'm averaging about 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which feels miraculous after years of getting 3 or 4 hours at most. If you've been struggling with disrupted sleep and haven't considered sugar as a potential culprit, it might be worth examining your evening diet. Even hidden sugars and seemingly innocent foods like pasta sauce or salad dressing could be impacting your sleep quality more than you realize. Change 4. My mental clarity sharpened significantly. Perhaps the most surprising change I experienced after eliminating sugar was a noticeable improvement in my cognitive function. For several years, I had been experiencing what I simply accepted as senior moments, forgetting names, losing my train of thought mid-sentence, walking into rooms and forgetting why I was there. I had attributed these lapses to normal aging and perhaps the early stages of cognitive decline. About 3 weeks into my sugar-free experiment, I realized that these mental gaps were occurring much less frequently. I could recall names more easily, maintain my focus during complex conversations, and generally felt more mentally sharp throughout the day. This wasn't a subtle change. My daughter actually commented on how much more engaged and present I seemed during our weekly phone calls. The connection between sugar consumption and cognitive function is becoming increasingly clear to researchers. Sugar triggers inflammation throughout the body, including in the brain, where it can impair neural connections and even accelerate atrophy in key memory centers. Additionally, the insulin resistance that develops from years of high sugar consumption doesn't just affect your body's cells, it impacts brain cells as well, potentially contributing to cognitive decline and even increasing the risk of dementia. What I found particularly striking about this improvement was how it affected my confidence in social situations. Before giving up sugar, I had started avoiding certain gatherings because I was embarrassed by my forgetfulness and mental lapses. The cognitive clarity I've regained has allowed me to re-engage socially without that anxiety, which has significantly improved my quality of life. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Change 5. My sense of taste transformed completely. The final and most unexpected change I experienced after giving up sugar was a complete transformation in my sense of taste. For decades, I had been accustomed to highly sweetened foods and beverages, often adding extra sugar to already sweet items like breakfast cereals or coffee. I worried that eliminating sugar would leave me feeling perpetually deprived, constantly craving the sweetness I had enjoyed my entire life. What I never anticipated was how dramatically my palate would change. After about 3 weeks without added sugar, I began noticing subtle flavors in foods that I had never detected before. A simple apple tasted incredibly sweet and complex. I could distinguish different flavor notes that had previously been masked by my sugar-saturated palate. Vegetables developed nuanced, satisfying flavors rather than simply seeming bland by comparison to sweet foods. Even more surprisingly, when I accidentally consumed something with added sugar after a month of abstinence, a pasta sauce that contained unexpected sugar, it tasted overwhelmingly, almost unpleasantly sweet. My tolerance for sweetness had reset completely. For seniors concerned about nutrition, this taste transformation can be particularly valuable. As we age, getting proper nutrition becomes increasingly important, yet many older adults consume diets high in sugar and low in nutrient-dense foods like vegetables and proteins. When your palate resets, nutritious foods become more appealing, making healthy eating feel less like a chore and more like a genuine pleasure. How I managed the transition and what you should know. After sharing these 5 remarkable changes, you might be wondering how to navigate the practical challenges of giving up sugar, especially if it's been a staple in your diet for decades. The transition doesn't need to be miserable or extreme if you approach it strategically. First, prepare for withdrawal symptoms. The fatigue, irritability, and headaches I experienced in the first week are common and temporary. Having healthy alternatives ready, like fruit for sweetness cravings and protein-rich snacks for energy dips, can help you push through this challenging period. Remember, these symptoms typically subside within 5 to 7 days as your body adjusts. Second, become a label reader. Sugar hides in countless products where you'd never expect it: pasta sauces, salad dressings, bread, and even healthy items like granola or yogurt. Learning to identify sugar in its many forms, corn syrup, dextrose, maltose, etc., allows you to make informed choices. You might be shocked to discover how many of your staple foods contain hidden sugars. Third, focus on what you're adding, not just what you're eliminating. Rather than dwelling on giving up sweet treats, concentrate on adding nutrient-dense whole foods that support your health. Increasing protein, healthy fats, and fiber-rich vegetables not only improves overall nutrition but also helps stabilize blood sugar, reducing cravings during the transition. As I reflect on this month-long journey away from sugar, what strikes me most is how many of the changes I experienced had been hiding in plain sight. For years, I had accepted joint pain, energy crashes, poor sleep, mental fog, and dull taste as inevitable consequences of aging. I never suspected that a single dietary change could impact so many aspects of my health so dramatically, especially at 75. This experience has fundamentally changed how I think about aging. While some aspects of growing older are indeed inevitable, many of the symptoms we attribute to just getting older may actually be the cumulative effects of dietary choices we've made for decades. The good news is that our bodies retain remarkable capacity for healing and adaptation, even in our 70s and beyond. If you're considering your own sugar-free experiment, remember that you have nothing to lose except perhaps some discomfort during the initial adjustment period. The potential gains, reduced pain, better energy, improved sleep, sharper thinking, and enhanced taste, offer compelling reasons to try, even if you start with a shorter time frame like 2 weeks. The most valuable lesson I've learned is that it's never too late to make changes that improve your quality of life. At 75, I feel better than I did at 65 in many ways, simply by removing one inflammatory substance from my diet. This isn't about extending life at all costs, it's about enhancing the life you're already living, reducing unnecessary suffering, and maintaining independence and functionality for as long as possible. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.